How powerful would the war demon be if it wielded swords? Welcome to Ackerman Recap. Today let's explore together the battle between the strongest samurai and the strongest man of the Jurassic era. Sometime later, Tokugawa found the beloved sword that Musashi had once wielded. The same sword that had seen countless fierce battles, returning to its rightful owner. Tokugawa prepared a few wax figures for Musashi to test the sword. Musashi began with this straw column, effortlessly cutting it without exerting much force, just like the legendary samurai of old. Tokugawa watched, perspiring. He cut it as if it were tofu. Next was a wax figure holding a police shield, and he effortlessly slashed through it. The legendary swordsman effortlessly severed everything with a single stroke, leaving everything perfectly cut. Then cut Tokugawa, startling him. Toku informed Motobe about the upcoming match, which allowed Musashi to use weapons. Motobe felt very uncomfortable with Toku's decision. He argued that allowing Musashi to use a sword would make it extremely difficult for Pickle to win. Meanwhile, Musashi was taking a stroll and pondering the grandeur of the buildings when Gaia suddenly appeared behind him. Gaia expressed slight disappointment that the person at the pinnacle of fame before him was so oblivious, saying he had plenty of opportunities to kill Musashi. The legendary swordsman had noticed that Gaia had been following him for the past 15 minutes. Gaia had great confidence in his tracking skills and didn't believe Musashi's words. Musashi regarded the person standing before him as a child and not a significant threat. The samurai knew that Gaia was carrying numerous weapons on him and stated that they posed no danger. Feeling humiliated, Gaia reached for his concealed firearm, but before he could fire, his arm tendons were severed. "What will you do now, kid?" They both stared at each other with utmost seriousness. Gaia had come to realize the immense strength of the legendary swordsman. He drew a short sword, intending to strike at Musashi, but the seasoned swordsman was already aware of every move Gaia made. Gaia was holding a weapon that appeared to be a short sword, but in reality, it was a gun with bullets shaped like knives, and Musashi had correctly deduced this. Gaia believed it was already too late and fired the knife-shaped projectile at Musashi. He couldn't believe his eyes as the knife flew towards Musashi at a speed of 60 km/h and a distance of just 5 meters, only to be effortlessly caught by the man before him. It was an intriguing weapon, and Musashi was curious to examine it, but Gaia refused to allow it. In the end, Gaia's body was cut in half and then into quarters, but luckily it was just an imitation cut. If it had been a real sword strike, Gaia would have met his end. Gaia acknowledged the difference between them, a boundless, immense strength that set them apart. Curious, Gaia asked, "With such immense strength, do you even need a real sword in a battle with Pickle?" Musashi stated that Gaia still didn't grasp the significance of cutting. Gaia, in turn, knew nothing about Pickle and expressed a desire to learn. Musashi believed that through cutting, he would come to understand more about the person named Pickle. This 100% T-Rex meat is Pickle's food, but since encountering Musashi, it remains untouched. 4 days have passed, and he still hasn't eaten any of the T-Rex meat. Pickle seems to view the legendary samurai Miyamoto Musashi as his potential meal. Toku is worried that if Pickle doesn't eat soon, he will weaken and lose his fighting strength. However, in the natural world, hunger only makes creatures more ferocious. Baki was curious, wondering if the T-Rex's teeth were stronger in the Cretaceous period than Musashi's sword. Those massive teeth and the razor-sharp sword, which one will prove to be mightier? Doppo believed that comparing the two, Musashi's sword and the T-Rex teeth, was somewhat irrelevant in determining which was stronger. He used the example of a massive bear appearing before Musashi, saying it wouldn't even be considered a fight. That bear wouldn't stand a chance against Musashi. The creatures Pickle had faced in the past were not only large but also possessed razor-sharp teeth and terrifying biting force. On the other hand, there was a war demon, capable of sweeping through any battlefield without ever experiencing defeat. Who would be stronger here? Both were curious about this question. The match was set to begin tomorrow. Pickle was gradually becoming wild and craving for his opponent. He had not eaten, drunk, or slept for 6 days straight. Familiar faces and powerful fighters from around the world had gathered at the arena very early. No signals were needed, no orders were given. As soon as he caught the scent of Musashi's flesh, Pickle aggressively charged forward. The legendary samurai sensed the strong aura of death and drew his sword. Cut vertically from the top down into Pickle's body, he managed to completely block Pickle's incredibly powerful charge with his sword. If it were any other fighter, they might have been cleaved in two. But Pickle was different, with his rock-solid facial muscles and a body full of strong sinews, making Musashi's sword unable to cut through. The legendary swordsman was eagerly intrigued by those muscles. Pickle countered by delivering a powerful punch to Musashi's face, causing the samurai to fall unconscious. The sword stuck to Pickle's face began to drop, leaving a wound along Pickle's body. The primal man was curious about the weapon that had just injured him. He raised the sword, staring at it intently. Everyone wondered if Pickle's colossal strength could shatter the sword. Pickle lightly touched the sword, causing his hand to bleed. He then lifted the sword and swung it forcefully toward the ground. Even the swift Baki was surprised, as he couldn't see the sword's path. The audience couldn't discern the movement either, and assumed Pickle had plunged the sword into the ground. However, the modern-day swordsman had keenly observed the sword's trajectory. Pickle had slashed it into the ground. It was unbelievable that with such immense resistance from the soil, rocks, teeth, and even claws, Pickle could still cut through like that, displaying truly impressive strength. On the other side, Musashi had regained consciousness. The sword could cut through iron but couldn't sever Pickle's incredibly thick muscle layer. Pickle lunged with the sword, but Musashi's speed lost Pickle's sight and caused the sword to plunge into the ground. The legendary samurai raised his sword, seeming to have discovered Pickle's weakness. Musashi began cutting into the edges of Pickle's body, where there was no muscular protection. However, Pickle remained standing and nothing was completely severed, which left Musashi in disbelief. After some contemplation, Musashi noticed something. A moment when Pickle's muscles turned into tofu-like softness. The legendary samurai urged Pickle to attack him, and Pickle charged powerfully. Just before running, just before punching, right before the muscles reached their peak strength. That was when the muscles became the weakest. Musashi capitalized on this and attacked precisely at that moment. This time, Musashi's sword managed to pierce through the steel-hard muscle layer. The spectators in the stands had already discerned the outcome of the battle, and even Dr. Kureha remarked that the fight had pushed beyond its limits. However, Tokugawa asserted that the decision rested with the two fighters, expressing surprise when he noticed that Musashi had lost a chunk of flesh from his shoulder. Pickle was voraciously gnawing on the meat after nearly 7 days without eating. Musashi commented that the piece of meat he was eating wasn't delicious, and the tastiest part was actually his own head. Although Pickle didn't understand Musashi's words due to the language barrier, he grasped the purpose behind the samurai's actions. Pickle exerted all his muscles, entering his ultimate and most powerful state, revealing the scars left by the T-Rex. There's nothing more dangerous in the world than being inside the mouth of a T-Rex. Its sharp teeth and crushing bite force can obliterate anything, but with sheer strength, Pickle managed to escape from it. The fighters were taken aback as they witnessed this new form of Pickle for the first time. The primitive man rushed forward aggressively and was cut in the extremities by Musashi. In this state, Pickle's muscles were strongly connected, and the wounds didn't make blood flow out. Pickle seemed like a ghost, and Musashi could cut him as much as he pleased. Previously, in sword duels, Musashi's opponents would fall after a single strike. He was addicted to cutting, longing to find someone he could cut countless times. And now, Musashi's dream had become a reality. An opponent he could cut as many times as he wished. In this moment, Pickle felt disoriented. The man standing before him was unlike any previous opponents. The speed, the pain he endured was overwhelming. Now, the image before Pickle's eyes was that of a giant hornet, not Musashi. This creature had once instilled fear in Pickle, much like when he fought Jack. He began to revert to his normal state, and blood started flowing from the cuts. After all the effort, Pickle no longer wanted to eat Musashi. He had endured enough, and everything was far from what he had imagined. Pickle turned away and walked off. He no longer wished to fight. He silently thought to himself, "I'm no longer hungry." However, Musashi didn't relent and pursued Pickle, determined to finish the battle. Pickle's body began to tremble in the face of the relentless foe. He glanced towards the underground level beneath the stands and ran into it. Motobi had been waiting there and comforted Pickle. "Run away, leave the rest to me," Motobi said and confidently enters the arena. The video has come to an end. Please leave your comments in the comments section, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay updated with the latest videos from me. For now, goodbye and see you again, everyone.